This is Dr. Tami Dean, and you are listening to the Equity Hour podcast. I am so excited to be here with you today. My goal is that as a listener, you leave with new ideas, resources, and actionable steps for your educational community. Let's explore how we can use our voices for equity and social justice today. Hello and welcome everyone to a new season of the Equity Hour with me, your host, Dr. Tami Dean. I am so excited to launch season 2 of the Equity Hour podcast. And I have some great things lined up for you this season, some great educators who are doing some amazing things out in the world, helping to promote equity and social justice, and some people who are no longer in educational spaces out doing equity and social justice work too. And I think that's really important as we go into season 2 is to think about all of the various spaces that we move through the world and how we can use our voice to stand up for equity and social justice, not only in our classrooms or schools or districts, but also in our community and the greater community at large. So I am, for those of you that are new to the podcast, I am Dr. Tami Dean, and I help educators build equitable systems so they can cultivate and support a culture grounded in equity and social justice. So I provide resources and tips and tricks. I have this wonderful podcast. I also do professional development, coaching, and speaking. So I am always booking, and you are free to use the link provided in the show notes and head over to my Instagram, Dragonfly Rising LLC, to give me a follow to get an update on all the latest and greatest information. So some things coming up here in our upcoming episodes, we're going to really talk about moving from performative into practical equity in application and practice. So there's tends to be a lot of spaces where we say we're doing equity work, or we believe in equity work, or we have a DEI statement or a team or any of those things, but really thinking about how do we practically do that, and is what we're saying matching what we actually do? So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about authenticity in what it is we do, in bringing your own voice and your authentic self into the space. And again, we're going to talk some more about community because, and I've said this before, and if you've listened to any of season 1, you'll know I talk a lot about community because community is an essential part of being a human. Number one, we are meant to live in community. We are meant to have a community to support us, to learn from, to engage us. And you also need a community in equity and social justice work. There are times where this work can feel, I'm going to say, heavy. And so you need a community to bounce ideas off of, share your celebrations, and also people that will speak truth. So as we've discussed before, we all have bias, and how do we recognize that bias? One, with some self-reflection, but sometimes people help show and put up a mirror for us to see what it is we may be having some challenges being able to see. So just a little hint of what is coming up, and then just a little bit more about me. I have been doing work in the equity and social justice space for, I'm going to say, a quarter of a century. That sounds like so long, but it is true. And so I am just really excited to bring this podcast to you in season 2. I am looking for additional guests always. So if that is you or you know someone, please fill out the contact form, and I would love to chat with you about what it is you're doing and get you scheduled on the podcast. So really exciting. We ended our season 1 with a really diverse audience across multiple countries and continents. So very excited about that. And so looking forward to season 2. Would ask if you enjoyed the podcast in season 1, please head on over to your podcast provider and give me that 5-star review. I would appreciate it. And please share this with anyone that you know that could benefit, would enjoy, and would love to spend some time listening to this podcast. So thank you all for your support over season 1. Looking forward to an amazing season 2, and I will talk to you soon.
This wraps up another episode of the Equity Hour podcast with me, your host, Dr. Tami Dean. Make sure to check out the show notes for any resources, links, and next steps from today's episode. Head on over to Instagram and give us a follow at Dragonfly Rising LLC for more tips, resources, and opportunities to connect. Thank you so much for joining us. And remember, intent is not enough. Action is necessary. How will you use your voice today?